Hi guys, this is the advisor and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to add a rational perspective to the current debacle of Canada selling Jamaica cannabis. Now, before I go into the meat of the matter, I have to give you a background as to what is really happening here. So here's the background. I have to tell you how international trade works for you to understand what's happening. No country has all of the resources that it needs for its own development. Therefore, in order to sustain itself and create viability for itself as a nation, countries buy the things that it needs but does not have. And they buy these things from countries that have it to sell. And that country in turn buys from the reciprocating country the things that it has to sell. If every country had all of the resources that it needed for its own development and sustainability, there would be no need for international trade. Cargo ships, wharves, shipping containers would not exist. They exist because of the simple reality that countries need to sell things that they have in surplus and can make cheaper or are of a higher quality than other countries, whether it be raw materials or finished goods, and the fact that other countries need these goods. Now, to give you an example, the United States imports most of its oil from three countries: Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Canada. The three countries with the highest oil reserves on the planet. But did anybody know that the United States also has oil? Yes, it does, and lots of it. It is about ninth highest in oil reserves on the planet. But America keeps its oil in the ground. It uses very little of its own oil. So when these countries run out, America will still have its own reserves ready to be tapped into. Therefore, if it takes 50 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years, America is in no hurry to use its own oil reserve. It will wait. But then again, that's another story altogether. Now, stay with me, guys. Give me a few more minutes, please. I'm just laying out the foundation for what I have to say. Now, can you imagine the three top countries selling oil to each other? Saudi Arabia selling oil to Venezuela, who then sells oil back to Saudi Arabia? Or Venezuela selling oil to Canada, who in return sells oil to Saudi Arabia, who then sells oil to Venezuela in a triangle? Does that make any sense? Three of them have oil. There's no point selling oil to each other. So, the indisputable fact about reality is this. The whole point of trading, like I said, is to sell the things that you have in excess to countries that have very little of it or none. Now, what Jamaica have in excess is weed. And not just in excess, but we have the best, the very best. For those of you who do not know, there are two items that are produced in Jamaica that are incomparable in quality to anything else here on earth. And these two commodities are ginger and ganja. Way back in the 1970s, entrepreneurs had come from both Canada, Britain, and the United States and took samples of our ginger and ganja back to their countries and planted them there to see if they could reproduce the same quality in their countries. Yes, guys, a long time they might try rob we, Yeah, man, a long time. Okay, they took them back and the plants grew. In fact, they did not just grow, they flourished. But they did not have the same quality that they had in Jamaica. So they came back and they got some of our soil and took it back to their countries and planted our ganja in our soil, in their country, and they still got the same poor results that they had gotten before. There was just something about that these things have to be grown in Jamaica for it to be what we want it to be and for the quality to be there. Right? So that plan was shelved. That's why they never grew ganja over those countries for decades. Now, in the first place, why would Jamaica and Canada break the most fundamental law of international trade and commerce? That is, selling to a country something that they have and buying in return the same thing that you just sold. In the first place, that is not trading, that is just swapping goods. And if that is not bad enough, Jamaica is swapping something that they have of a superior quality for something that the other country have of an inferior quality. Does that make sense? No. We need to find out which set of people with dark droppings in their cranial cavity who signed off on this arrangement. So let's look at the Cannabis Licensing Authority. It was formed in 2014 under PNP administration led by Portia Simpson Miller. At that time, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries was the late Honorable Roger Clark. Was that stipulation inside the inaugural document for that agency at the time? If not, when was it added? Now, let's look at the current mandate of the Cannabis Licensing Authority. It is 1. To create regulations to guide the development of an orderly, legal ganja and hemp industry in Jamaica for the use of the plant and its byproducts for medical, therapeutic, and scientific purposes. 2. To ensure the regulations created and activities within the industry are in keeping with Jamaica's international obligations. And 3. To issue licenses, permits, and authorization for the handling of hemp and ganja. Okay. Is this the original mandate or had it been altered by another administration since? Because there's nothing in the above wording which speaks to importing weed into Jamaica. And even if there was, that would not fall under the purview of the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Only the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Commerce can dictate a policy of what can be imported into the country, not the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. So who is the person with the dark droppings in his cranial cavity instead of a brain? Who decided that it was a good idea that Jamaica should be importing cannabis? Now, one thing is clear, is that the president of the Cannabis Licensing Authority, Rear Admiral Hardly Lewin, knows nothing about it. He is as disgusted over the whole debacle as any decent Jamaican would be. And of course, emphasis on decent Jamaican. This man is a very honorable man. He's part of the system, but he has a conscience. And he let the world know what was happening. And Hardly Lewin, he went on to say, I brought this to the attention of our members and the industry and also to the Cannabis Licensing Authority who confirmed it. I made a lot of noise about it because I'm very angry that a country that does not allow Jamaican imports or exports from Jamaica into their market could be granted permission to export to Jamaica, he said. Now, guys, stop for a minute and think about that. You don't think somebody mad or somebody just take a bribe and just do a thing, sell we out? You don't think so? All right, anyway, let me continue. What we have to understand, is that for about 12 years now, Canada has been exporting cannabis to Europe, mostly to Germany. about 58%. And when they export it to Canada, to Germany, the Canadian exports, it was then processed and sold on to other members of the European Union. Also, Canada had a thriving cannabis export because they also sent to countries like New Zealand, Australia, and even Israel. But the largest market, which was the German market, started drying up in about late 2018, going into 2019, when Germany realized that it could produce a better quality cannabis than Canada, and then start producing it in commercial quantity in greenhouses. So since then, Canada has been struggling to get rid of its excess supply of cannabis. And added to this, there is a regulatory body in Canada known as Health Canada. Now, Health Canada approves every piece of cannabis that leaves the country. It has to be approved for export by the Canadian regulatory body, which is Health Canada. And how Health Canada does its thing is that it approves, when it approves a shipment or approves a consignment, that consignment have to leave the country within a fixed period of time. I think that time is about 3 months. So if Health Canada approve a shipment from a person, from a company that produces cannabis in Canada, and it does not leave within that fixed period of time, that export license expires, and the person who produces cannabis in Canada will have to reapply. And bear in mind, there are about 6 or 7 companies in Canada that produces cannabis for shipment overseas. Now, when Canada lost that amount of market, those companies in Canada lost the market, they had to look for different markets because Germany wasn't taking that much. And they had to get rid of the supplies because if the license expires, I have to reapply. Reapplication takes time. And when you get the license, if it still doesn't get sent, an expiry date, they have an expiry time for the weed where they might have to destroy it and get another set. Therefore, this was very expensive for the Canadian suppliers if they can't find buyers to get rid of it. So we can see the level of desperation that Canada would have from late 2018 into 2019 come to now to get rid of the supply of cannabis that it has. Now, we can see why Canadian companies, out of desperation, would be interested in passing on the weed to anyone outside of their regular export partners. Now, as always, Jamaica has always had some weak ASS leaders. And they are not just weak, but them licky. What I want to find out is when did this stipulation about we importing weed from foreign actually became an official policy of the Jamaican government? Was that in the original document or what? Or did it go in after 2019 when Canada was desperate to get rid of its excess weed? We need to know. Now, the person we can find out from is the Minister of Agriculture, which is Pernell Charles Jr. Because, remember, the Cannabis Licensing Authority falls under his portfolio. But the way I see it, we will not hear anything from anybody. No, this will be just another 9-day talk. In fact, I'm making this now. This is Monday, the 6th of March. And by Wednesday, the 8th of March, the matter will be totally dead. Not even going 9 days. Neither the government nor opposition will utter a word. And once again, the people who put them on this pedestal will be shafted. And we'll be quite happy about it. You know? But I still need to ask Colonel Charles Jr. some questions. I won't get answers, but these questions are extremely relevant. Colonel Charles Jr., do you know of a Canadian company called Aurora that produces and sells unprocessed cannabis across the globe? And I want to know, is this the company selling the weed to Jamaica? We would like to know. Tell us, please. And again, another thing we need to know, are you or anybody in the Ministry of Agriculture connected to a Royal Bank account of Canada, Royal Bank of Canada account in the British Virgin Islands, to which Canadian $487,000 were transferred in 2021? I would like to know about that money, 487 Canadian dollars, in that British Virgin Islands account of the Royal Bank of Canada. And the company that transferred was the transfer from a company called Canimed Therapeutics Incorporated. For those who don't know, Canimed Therapeutics Incorporated makes a long list of medications from cannabis, and they sell all these products all over the world, and probably some of them are even sold here in Jamaica. I don't know. But another thing is, I mean, this company makes such a long list of products from cannabis. But one thing I need to ask is it Canimed Therapeutics that sent the money to that account in the Cayman in the British Virgin Islands? And also, is Canimed Therapeutics a subsidiary of Aurora, the same company that supposedly is sending the cannabis here? So this company is selling us the raw material and selling us finished products. And what we are sending there? Nothing. The whole thing is a mess. I'm trying to connect some dots here, and I will continue to dig. I'm a hacker. So nothing on the face of this earth is safe for me. So as soon as I find out some more stuff, I'll be posting it here. So in my Terminator voice, I will say this.
I'll be back.
So like, share, and leave a comment below. And for goodness sake, please subscribe.